Okay, so welcome everyone. Now, today we are going to talk about chapter number 4 from the book Trading in the Zone. So far, we have already covered the three chapters from this particular book. In case if you have missed it, you can go through it, or any problem, any doubts if you have, you can ask it to me right away. Okay, now without any further ado, let's just start. Let's just dive right into it. And I'm getting the aftertaste of candy, so it's my father's birthday today, and I'm wishing all the happiness to him, and I'm wishing a long and healthy life to him. So, on this positive note, let's just start. Okay, now today we are going to talk about chapter number 4, which is consistency and basically a state of mind. So, consistency from the trading perspective, it is more of like having a winning streak, or like, you know, overall you are in a profitable, what I can say, state, right? So, to achieve it, what are the things that you need to have? What are the things that you have to, have in your mental environment? That is what we are going to cover today. Okay, so as we generally do, we go through a particular chapter, and in between, wherever I feel like I have to write down something, I'll copy paste it to my PPT, where I'll, simply copy paste the important terms or important sayings or important sentences from this particular chapter. And meanwhile, we'll go through the chapter and we'll understand it. Okay, now I hope that after reading the first three chapters, you're getting die idea. Okay, there are certain typing mistakes, I guess. So getting the idea that just because you are acting in the capacity of a trader, so in between, if you feel like there are certain discrepancies in terms of mistyping, okay, or like the words are not clear, so we will try to get the gist of the particular sentence. So rather than focusing on the problems, we'll focus on solutions. It is very important when you are trading also, and in general life as well. Okay, now I hope that after reading the first three chapter, you are getting the idea that just because you are acting in the capacity of a trader doesn't mean that you have learned the appropriate ways to think about what you do. As I have already stressed several times, what separates the best traders from everyone else is not what they do or when they do it, but rather how they think about what they do and how they are thinking when they do it. Okay, now it sounds important, so let's just make a small hmm, note of it. Fine, and it is just a few moments task. Okay, now I'm right back into it. If your goal is to trade like a professional trader and be a consistent winner, then you must start from the premise that the solutions are in your mind and not in the market, right? So you need to have that solution what I can say, solution oriented approach in your life as well. In trading, it is a much needed thing to have. Okay, now when it comes to consistency, and that is what leading to the next stage, which is consistency. Okay, now coming to the consistency part, consistency is a state of mind that has at its core certain fundamental thinking strategies that are unique to trading. Okay, experiencing a few or more winning trades can convince almost anyone that trading is easy. Recall your own experiences. So, whenever you are in winning streak, that is a very common experience that you must have come across. In case if you haven't, you will for sure in your life, if you will continue trading, right? So when you are in winning streak, you feel like, okay, this is very easy. Getting money out of the market is very easy. Then you will compare yourself with the people who are doing 9 to 5 job, or who are doing like, you know, the very hard laborious job in their life that requires hard labor, or like, a lot of time. Then you compare yourself with those people, you'll be like, in 1 hour, but that's how the influencer are also portraying trading, right? In 5 minutes I made this much, in 10 minutes I made this much, and then they will compare it with other people. No, that's not the easy case, right? You have to be consistent, and it is exactly opposite, like the way people act in 9 to 5 job. In 9 to 5 job, they have a target, they'll meet the target, and then they are done. Most of the time they are not in the zone, still they are doing that work. But for doing trading, you have to be in the zone. You have to be consciously present in the moment, right? That is a needed thing in the market. In your other jobs, you can do it without having any kind of right state of mind. You will still do your job, especially the 9 to 5 jobs, right? But here, no, whatever you have inside, market will simply going to reflect it. We have already covered it in this book like in the first three chapters, and we have already covered it in the last book, that is The Disciplined Trader. So that means it has a very, very, very important, what I can say, important note, or more like an important saying into it. Okay, consistency is a state of mind that has its core certain fundamental thinking strategies that are unique to trading. Experiencing a few or more winning trades can convince almost anyone that trading is easy. Recall your own experiences. Think back to those trades that bought a stream of money flowing into your account when all you had done was make a simple decision to buy or sell. Right? Now, combine the extremely positive feeling you get from winning and getting money with no effort, and it's almost impossible not to conclude that making money as a trader is easy. But if that's the case, if trading is so easy, then why is it difficult to master? Right? The reality and the way trading is perceived, there is this gap in between. And that's what we are covering in this series, where we are talking about, you know, different kind of things, different kind of mental state, and different kind of things that is present inside the mental environment, and how we can mold it according to the needs to survive or sustain in a market and come out as a profitable consistent trader, or consistent profitable trader, whichever way you want to put it. Right? Now, moving ahead, hmm, it's almost impossible not to conclude that making money as a trader is easy. But if that's the case, if trading is so easy, then why is it is difficult to master? Why are so many traders out of nine, like out of 10, there are nine people who are in loss? What is the reason about this big number in loss? The reason can vary for from person to person, but the end result for 9 out of 10 people is losing. The different, like their reason can vary, but the end result is same. And on the other end, the people who are earning, their reason is same, to stay in a category where they are consistent profitable trader. They are following certain things, and that's what we are trying to figure out, and how we can inculcate those qualities into ourselves, and how can we get the best out of it. Right? But if that's the case, if trading is so easy, then why it is so difficult to master? Why are so many traders at their wits and grappling with the obvious contradiction? Contradiction basically means we assume that trading is very easy. It is like easy money. And then when we are in the market, ultimately when we are losing money, there is this contradiction, right? We are thinking it is very easy, but in reality, it is way tricky. You have to reach the state after which it will become very easy to you. But to reach that state, there is a procedure to it. That there are a lot of things that you have to change in your personality. There are a lot of things that you have to change inside of you to reach that state. And after that, indeed, it is easy, right? If it is true that trading is easy and traders know it is because they have had the direct experience of how easy and effortless it is, then how can it also be possible that they can't make what they have learned about the markets work for them over and over again? In other words, how do we account for the information between what we believe about trading and our actual trading results over time, right? Thinking about trading, the answer are all in the way you think about it. The irony is that trading can be as much fun and as effortless as your experience of it has been on occasion, but experiencing these qualities consistently is a function of your perspective, your beliefs, your attitude, your mindset, right? That is a much needed difference that we are going to focus on. Doing it once in a while is a different thing, but doing it consistently is what we are looking for, right? Okay, let me just simply take a note of it. And by that, I simply mean Control C, Control V. Hmm. So, yeah, there's this scenario. Now, moving ahead, choose a term you are most comfortable with. They all refer to the same thing. Winning and consistency are state of mind in the same way that happiness, having fun, and satisfactions are state of mind. Yeah, I have experienced it many a times. Your state of mind is byproduct of your beliefs and attitudes. Okay. Now, this is very important, and I can relate to this part very much. And for the solution, I'm here reading this book. And it's very helpful in your life also. It's not only about trading. So when we are learning about trading psychology, like we are, reading and focusing in this particular book, we are learning a lot of things that can help in our normal day-to-day life as well. Okay. Hmm. Have I copied it twice? Yes. Okay, then I have to remove it from here. All right. Okay. Your state of mind is a byproduct of your beliefs and attitudes. So that means if you want to change the outcome, you want to change the external environment, you have to change the internal environment, and you have got all the answers within you. It might sound very strange to you in the beginning, but that's the harsh truth. Not harsh, but that's a fact. That's a fact. You'll realize it. You can try to create consistency without having the appropriate beliefs and attitudes, but your result won't be any different than than if you try to be happy when you are not having fun. When you're not having fun, it can be very difficult to change your perspective to one where you all of a sudden start enjoying yourself, like the traits in which you're winning. Okay, of course, the circumstances of your situation could suddenly shift in a way that cause you to experience joy, but then your state of mind would be the result of an external shift in conditions, not a result of your internal shift in your attitude. If you depend on outside conditions and circumstances to make you happy, so that you always are enjoying yourself, then it is extremely unlikely that you will experience happiness on a consistent basis, right? Expectations, especially from the outer world, or like trying to control the uncontrollables, is a very tricky thing. All you can do is have a good grip on yourself, on your personality, and you can try to mold it so that whatever you perceive outside will also change ultimately. Okay. However, you can greatly increase the possibility of your being happy by developing fun type attitudes, and more specifically by working on neutralizing the beliefs and attitudes that prevent you from having fun or enjoying yourself. Hmm. Creating consistent success as a trader. Okay, I'll go through it once again. However, you can greatly increase the possibility of your being happy by developing fun type attitudes, and more specifically by working on neutralizing the beliefs and attitudes that prevent you from having fun or enjoying yourself. I'm trying very hard for this nowadays. Like in small things, in teeny tiny things, I'm trying to, impose it. I'm trying to get the energy out of the things that is, you know, pushing me down kind of situation, and then I'll ultimately go up. That's the ultimate goal. By working on neutralizing the beliefs and attitudes that prevent you from having fun or enjoying yourself, creating consistent success as a trader works the same way. You can't rely on the market to make you consistently successful any more than you can rely on the outside world to make you consistently happy. People who are truly happy don't have to do anything in order to be happy. They are just happy from within, and that's why they reflect it in the outer environment as well. They're happy people. They are happy people who do things. Okay. Traders who are consistently successful are consistent as a natural expression of who they are. They don't have to try to be consistent. They are consistent. They're not pretending. They become like being consistent is a part of their personality, is what the author is trying to say over here. This may seem like an abstract distinction, but it is vitally important that you understand the difference. Being consistent is not something you can try to be, because the very act of trying will negate your intent by mentally taking you out of the opportunity flow, making it less likely that you will win and more likely you will lose. Your very best trades were easy and effortless. Absolutely correct. You didn't have to try to make them easy. They were easy. There was no struggle. You saw exactly what you needed to see, and you acted on what you saw. You were in the moment, a part of the opportunity flow. When you are in the flow, you don't have to try, because everything you know about the market is available to you. Nothing is being blocked or hidden from your awareness. And your actions seem effortless because there is no struggle or resistance. On the other hand, having to try indicates that there is some degree of resistance or struggle. Otherwise, you could just be doing it like it is not naturally coming out of you, is what the author is trying to portray over here. You'd just be doing it and not have to try to be doing it. It also indicates that you're trying to get what you want from the market. While it seems natural to think this way, it's a perspective fraught with difficulties. The best traders stay in the flow because they don't try to get anything from the market. They simply make themselves available so that they can take advantage of whatever the market is offering at any given moment. There is a huge difference between two perspective. Very, very, very important. They're not trying to mold the market according to themselves. They are just going in the flow of the market, and they're just picking whatever the market has to offer. Right. So someday market is in a mood to give you big. Someday the market is not in a mood to give you big. So both the days you have to be ready. Just have to be present in the moment. Then only you'll get the best out of it. Okay. Right. Okay. Let's just go further ahead. I'm trying to change the font and the color as well. I think now it is fine. What about the font? Font is of 18. Hmm. Since I'm making the notes right away, so you might feel this little bit of bumps in between, or like little bit of short generic pause in between. But yeah, you know what to do, right? You can simply skip next 5 seconds and we'll right back into the content itself. In chapter 3, I briefly illustrated how our minds are wired to avoid both physical and emotional pain. If you trade from the perspective of trying to get what you want or what you expect from the market, what happens when the market doesn't believe in a way that will fulfill your expectation? Your mental defense mechanisms kicks in to compensate for the difference between what you want and what you are not getting, so that you don't experience an emotional pain. Very, very, very important. Right. So when you are jumping into a trade and it is going in your direction, then it is very easy to control your emotions and follow all your rules. But the tricky part is when the market is not moving in your direction, and to avoid the emotional pain, the brain, what it will do, the mental defense mechanism, what it will do, it will try to hamper your emotions, and it will give you the upsides of the trade, or like it will only give you the selective information that can help you to strongly, what I can say, think that your trade is correct. Okay, you're not looking at the market objectively, you're just trying to make something out of your own defense mechanism, and you're losing the being in the moment for yourself, is what I'm here trying to convey, and the author is also trying to convey. Okay, our minds are designed to automatically block threatening information or find a way to obscure that information in order to shield us from that emotional discomfort we naturally feel when we don't get what we want. You won't realize it in the moment, but you'll pick and choose information that is consistent with what you expect, so that you can maintain a pain free state of mind. Exactly what I said, right? So in the moment you might not, since there is this time pressure also, the clock is ticking, right? So in the very moment you'll not be able to identify, okay, this is how the brain is tricking me, or this is not the way ideally so the trading should be done. You'll not be able to differentiate these things in the moment. But later on you'll realize, okay, no, I did I committed the silly mistakes that I could have easily avoided, right? Have I already wrote down? Okay, now moving ahead. However, in the process of trying to maintain a pain free state of mind, you also take yourself out of the opportunity flow and enter the realm of the could have, the should have, the would have, and the if only. Everything that you could have, should have, or would have recognized in the moment appeared invisible, then all becomes painfully evident after the fact, after the opportunity is long gone. So then you will realize it. Okay. To be consistent, you have to learn to think about trading in such a way that you are no longer susceptible to conscious or subconscious mental process that cause you to obscure, block, or pick and choose information on the basis of what will make you happy, give you what you want, or avoid pain. Right. So basically you're living in the moment, you're being objective to the market, and you're finding out the right information without getting your emotions involved in the situation. Okay. The threat of pain generates fear. The fear is the source of 95% of the errors you are likely to make. Certainly, there are a lot of things. You might not be able to understand the gravity of the words that is written over here, but once you'll do it, like you'll do the trading for a longer period of time, you'll realize how important these words are. Then you can relate to the part, then you'll try to find out the solution also for it, right? Certainly you can't be consistent or experience the flow if you are consistently making errors, and you will make errors as long as you are afraid that what you want or what you expect won't happen. Furthermore, everything you attempt to do as a trader will be a struggle, and it will seem as if you are struggling against the market or that the market is against you personally. But the reality is that it's all taking place inside your mind. Have I already copied this? The threat of pain part? Yes. So, in case you want me to share the PPT that I'm making while going through the content, you can just simply let me know and we'll figure it out, okay? And when I'm writing down things, you can think about the things that we have learned so far, then also it is going to be profitable to you. Now, the market doesn't perceive the information it is available to you, it makes available. You do. If there's struggle, it is you who are struggling against your own mindset. Okay, there is this typing error. So let's move forward. Now you may be asking yourself, how can I think about trading in such a way that I am no longer afraid and therefore no longer susceptible to the mental process that caused me to block, obscure, or pick and choose information? The answer is learn to accept the risk. When you are entering in any trade, you are going in with all the what I can say, right hopes and everything, but at the same time, you have to be, you know, this very idea in your mind. Okay, it can go against me as well. You have to be ready for that. Okay. Hmm. Now, next point, really understanding risk. Other than the many issues surrounding responsibilities that we have discussed in chapter 3, there isn't anything about trading that is more central to your success and also more misunderstood than the concept of accepting the risk. As I mentioned in the first chapter, most traders erroneously assume that because they are engaged in the inherently risky activity of putting on and taking off trades, they are also accepting that risk. I'll repeat that this assumption couldn't be further from the truth. Accepting the risk means accepting the consequences of your trades without emotional discomfort or fear. Right? So, if you're entering in a trade, there needs to be a predefined risk, and that risk should be well within the limits that is it is not affecting your mental state in any sense, because it will, if it does, then in the future trades also you're going to lose, or ultimately you're going to close it in a red day. And obviously we don't want that, right? So how can we simply avoid it? Accepting the risk, meaning accepting the consequences of our trades without emotional discomfort or fear. This means that you must learn how to think about trading to your relationship with the markets in such a way that the possibility of being wrong, losing, missing out, or leaving money on the table doesn't cause your mental defense mechanism to kick in and take you out of the opportunity flow. It doesn't do you any good to take the risk of putting on a trade if you are afraid of the consequences, because your fears will act on your perception of information and your behavior in a way that it will cause you to create the very experience you fear the most, the one you are trying to avoid. I'm offering you a specific thinking strategy composed of a set of beliefs that will keep you focused in the moment and in the flow. With the perspective, you'll not be trying to get anything from the market or to avoid anything. Rather, you'll let the markets unfold and you will make yourself available to take the advantage of whatever situation you define as opportunities. When you make yourself available to take advantage of an opportunity, you don't impose any limitation or expectation on the market's behavior. You are satisfied to let the market do whatever it is going to do. You're not getting emotionally attached to a particular trade. That simply means, if I'll give you a quick summary of whatever we have learned so far, or whatever the gist of or the crux of what we read so far, it is you need to have a predefined SL, okay, stop loss. That means you're taking a risk, and if it is not working out in your favor, then this particular amount you're okay to lose in the market, or okay to check if your risk is, correct or in the right direction or not. You're not getting mentally or emotionally attached to it. Okay, you're not taking it as a personal loss, even if it will hit the SL. Okay. However, in the process of doing something, the market will create certain condition you define and perceive as opportunities. You act on those opportunities to the best of your ability, but your state of mind is not dependent upon on or affected by the market's behavior. Exactly. You're not too emotionally attached to it. If you can learn to create a state of mind that is not affected by the market's behavior, the struggle will cease to exist. When the internal struggle ends, everything becomes easy. At that point, you can take full advantage of your all your skills, analytical or otherwise, to eventually realize your potential as a trader. Here's the challenge: how do you accept the risk of trading without emotional discomfort and fear? When at the moment you perceive the risk, you simultaneously feel discomfort and fear. In other words, how do you remain confident and pain free when you are absolutely certain you can be proved wrong, lose money, miss out, or leave money on the table? As you can see, you fear your fear and feeling of discomfort are completely justified and rational. Each of those possibilities become real the moment you contemplate interacting with the market. Let's go through it once again. This is very important because now we are talking about the solution part to the problem that we have identified in this chapter, right? Not getting too much attention to the losing part, or not getting emotionally attached to losing, or the risk that you are taking to check if we are in the right direction or no, or to get the money out of the market. As you can see, your fear and feeling of discomfort and completely justified and rational. Okay. Each of those possibilities becomes real the moment you contemplate interacting with the market. It can be true, right? It absolute can be true. Absolutely can be true. However, as true as all of these possibilities are for every trader, what isn't true or the same for every trader is that it means to be wrong, lose, miss out, or leave money on the table. Not everyone shares the same beliefs and attitudes about these possibilities, and therefore we don't share the same emotional sensitivities. In other words, not everyone is afraid of the same things. Hmm. This may seem obvious, but I assure you it is not. When we are afraid, the emotional discomfort we feel in the moment is so real that it's beyond question. And it's natural to assume that everyone shares our reality. I'll give you a perfect example of what I'm trying to talk about here. Okay. I certainly worked with a trader who was deathly afraid of snakes. As far as he was concerned, he had always been afraid of snakes because he couldn't recall a time when he wasn't. Now he's married and has a 3-year old daughter. One evening, while his wife was out of the town, his daughter and he were invited to a friend's house for a dinner. Unknowingly to my client, his friend child had a pet snake. Okay. When the friend's child brought out the snake for everyone to see, my client freaked and practically leaped off leaped to the other side of the room to get as far as away from the snake as possible. His daughter, on the other hand, was completely enthralled with the snake that and wouldn't leave it alone. When he related this story to me, he narrated this story to me, he said that he was not only shocked by the unexpected confrontation with the snake, but that he was just as shocked by his daughter's reaction. She wasn't afraid, and he assumed that she would be. I explained to him that his fear was so intense and his attachment to his daughter was so great that it was inconceivable inconceivable to him that his daughter would not automatically share his reality about snakes. So basically, it's not the same. There is a difference in the perspective. Okay, the thing that can hurt you to the core can be very easy to the other person, and the thing that can trouble the other person to the core can be very easy thing for you, like a normal thing to you, right? So everyone's reality is different, is what the author is trying to tell us with the help of this example. Okay, but then I pointed out there really wasn't any way she could have shared his experience unless he specifically taught her to be afraid of snakes, or she had her own painful, frightening experience. Otherwise, without anything to the contrary in her mental system, the most likely reaction to her first encounter with the living snake would be pure, unadulterated fascination. Just as my client assumed that his daughter would be afraid of snake, most traders assume the best traders, like themselves, are also afraid of being wrong, losing, missing out, and leaving money on the table. They assume that the best traders somehow neutralize their fears with an inordinate amount of courage, nerves of steel, and self control. Like many other things about trading, what seems to make sense just isn't the case. Certainly, any one of all of the characteristics may be present in top trader, but what is not true is that these characteristics plays any role in their superior performance. Needing courage, nerves of steel, or self-control would imply an external conflict, an internal conflict where one force is being used to counteract the effect of the another. Any degree of struggle, trying, or fear associated with trading will take you out of the moment and flow and therefore diminish your results. This is where professional traders really separate themselves from the crowd. When you accept the risk the way the pros do, you won't perceive anything that the market can do as threatening. If nothing is threatening, there's nothing to fear. If you're not afraid, you don't need courage. If you're not stressed, why would you need nerves of steel? And if you're not afraid of your potential to get reckless because you have the appropriate mounting mechanism in place, then you have no need for self control, right? So, the gist is at the very core, all you need is to accept the risk. Whenever you are entering in a trade, accept the freaking risk. Okay, as you contemplate the implication of what I am saying, I wanted to keep something in mind. Very few people who go into trading start out with the appropriate beliefs and attitudes about responsibilities and risk. There are some who do, but it's rare. Everyone else go through the same cycle. I described the example of the novice trader. We start out carefree, then become scared, and our fears emotion continually diminish our potential. The traders who break through the cycle and ultimately make it are the ones who eventually learn to stop avoiding and start embracing the responsibility and the risk. Most of those who successfully break the cycle don't make the shift in thinking until they have experienced so much pain from large losses that it has the positive effect of stripping away their illusion about the nature of trading. Let's read it again. It is important. I have understood it, but still I'm emphasizing on it because this is very important. Most of those who successfully break the cycle doesn't make the shift in thinking until they have experienced so much pain from large losses that it has the positive effect of stripping away their illusion about the nature of the trading. With respect to, I hope you got the core idea over here, right? With respect to your development, the how of their transformation is not that important because in most cases it happened inadvertently. In other words, they weren't completely aware of the shifts that were taking place inside their mental environment until they experienced the positive effect their new perspective had on the ways in which they interacted with the market. This is why very few top traders can really explain what account for their success, except to speak in axioms like cut your losses and go with the flow. What is important is that you understand it is completely possible to think the way the professionals do and to trade without fear, even though your direct experience as a trader would argue otherwise. Hmm. Okay, aligning your mental environment. Now we are going to start zoning in on exactly how you can align your mental environment in order to accept the risk and function like a professional trader. Most of what I have discussed up to this point was designed to get you ready to do the real work. I'm going to teach you a thinking strategy that has at its core a firm belief in probabilities and edges. With this new thinking strategy, you learn how to create a new relationship with the market, one that disassociates your trading from what it typically means to be wrong or to lose, and that precludes you from perceiving anything that about the market as threatening. When the threat of pain is gone, the fear will correspondingly disappear, as will the fear based errors you are susceptible to. You'll be left with a mind that is free to see what is available and to act on what you see. Getting to this carefree, fearless state of mind, in spite of being burned over and over again, will take some work, but it's not going to be so difficult as you may think. In fact, by the time you have finished reading this book, most of you will be amazed at how simple the solutions to your problems really are. In many respects, a state of mind or perspective is like software code. You could have several thousand lines of perfectly written code with only one flawed line. And in that one flawed line, there might be only one character out of place, depending on the purpose of the software and where that flow is in relation to everything else. That one misplaced character could ruin the performance of an otherwise perfectly written system. You see, the solution was simple: fix the misplaced character and everything runs smoothly. However, finding the error or even knowing it exists in the first place can take considerably expertise. Considerable expertise. When it comes to the ideal trading mentality, everybody in is a certain psychological distance away. In other words, virtually everyone start out with flawed software code. I use terms like clicks or degrees to indicate psychological distances, but these terms don't imply a specific distance. So, for example, many of you will find that you're only, let's say, one click away in perspective from the ideal mindset. That one click could represent one or two erroneous or misplaced assumption you have about the nature of trading. As you reflect upon some of the ideas presented in this book, your perspective may shift. To use the analogy of software code, that shift would be equivalent to finding the flawed line in your mental system and replacing it with something that works properly. People normally describe this kind of internal shift, mental shift, as aha experience, or the moment when the light goes on. Everyone has had these kind of experience, and the eureka moment, basically, right? For the Archimedes, there was this eureka moment when he idealized, or when he found out the solution, how he can find the solution for the problem that was there for him. So he understood, okay, whatever the uh, weight he'll put inside that liquid, the same weight will come outside, right? Let's say one click away is in perspective from the ideal state. That one click could represent one or two erroneous or misplaced assumption uh, you have about the nature of trading. As you reflect upon some of the ideas presented in this book, your perspective may shift. May shift. Again, it is you who are going to decide you're going to adapt it or not. It is we who makes our own belief system. Ultimately, that will affect our external environment. So every answer of yours is well within you. You shouldn't try to find out the answer from the outside words. Is what author is trying to say over here. To use the analogy of software code, that shift would be equivalent to finding the flawed line in your mental system and replacing it with something that works properly. People normally describe this kind of internal shift as aha experience, or the moment when the light goes on. Everyone has had these kind of experience, and there are some common qualities associated with them. First, we usually feel different. The word seems different, as if it had suddenly changed. Typically, we might say at the moment of the breakthrough something like, "Why didn't you tell me this before?" Or "It was right in front of me the whole time, but I just didn't see it." Or "It's so simple, why couldn't I see it?" Another interesting fact and another interesting phenomena about the aha experience is that sometimes within moments, although the amount of time can vary, we feel as if this new part of our identity has always been a part of who we are. It then becomes difficult to believe that we were ever the way we were before we had the experience. In short, you may already have some awareness of much of what you need to know to be a consistently successful trader. But being aware of something doesn't automatically make it a functional part of who you are. Awareness is not necessarily a belief. You can't assume that learning about something new and agreeing with it is the same as believing it at a level where you can act on it. Now, you have to inculcate this as a part of your mental system, is what author is trying to say over here. Take the example of my client who is afraid of snakes. He's certainly aware that not all snakes are dangerous. He was very well aware of the facts, and that learning how to make a distinction between the ones that are dangerous and the ones that aren't would not be difficult. With learning how to make these distinctions suddenly cause him not to be afraid of non-dangerous snake or non-venomous snake. Can we assume that this his awareness will drop down to a level in his mental environment where he can now interact with snakes without fear or immobility? No, we cannot make this assumption. His awareness that some snakes aren't dangerous and his beliefs, his fear of snakes can exist side by side in his mental environment as a contradiction to each other. You could confront him with a snake, and he might readily acknowledge that he knows that the snake is not dangerous and wouldn't hurt him. But at the same time, he would still find it difficult, extremely difficult to touch the snake, even if he wanted to. Does this mean that he is doomed to be afraid of snake for the rest of life? Only if he wants to be. It's really a matter of willingness. It's certainly possible to neutralize his fear, but he will have to work for it, and working at something requires sufficient motivation. Many of us have what we know to be irrational fears and simply choose to live with the contradictions because we don't want to go through the emotional work that is necessary to overcome the fear. In this example, the contradiction is obvious. However, in my many years of working with traders, I have uncovered several typical contradictions and conflicts surrounding the issues of risk and responsibilities, where holding two or more conflicting beliefs can easily cancel out our positive intentions, no matter how motivated you are to be successful. The problem is that none of these contradictions are really obvious, at least not at first glance. Contradictory beliefs, however, aren't the only problems. What about assertions like I'm a risky trader, that traders typically assume have dropped down to the functional level of a belief when in fact the underlying dynamics of the way they perceive the market indicates they are doing everything possible to avoid risk. Contradictory beliefs and non-functional awareness represent flawed mental software code that destroys your ability to stay focused and accomplish your goals, code that makes it seem as if you simultaneously have one foot on the accelerator and the other one on the brake, code that gives learning how to trade a mysterious quality that will challenging in a fun way at first, but usually turns into pure, unadulterated exasperation. When I was in college in the late 1960s, one of my favorite movies was Cool Hand Luke, starring Paul Newman. It was a very popular movie back then, so I am sure of you have seen it on late night TV. Luke was in Georgia chain gang. After he escaped and was caught for the second time, the warden and guards were determined not to get Luke make fools of them a third time. So while forcing him to do an inordinate amount of work with no rest and giving him intermittent beatings, they kept asking, "Have you got your mind right yet, Luke?" Eventually, after considerable suffering, Luke finally told the prison bosses that he had his mind right. They said that if he didn't and tried to escape again, they'd kill him for sure. Of course, Luke attempted another escape, and true to their words, the guards killed him. Like Luke, many traders, whether they realize it or not, are trying to have it their way by beating the market. As a result, they get financially and emotionally killed. There are easier, infinite more ways, satisfying ways of getting what you want from the market, but first you have to be willing to get your minds right. Very important line. Okay, so by this we are at the end of this chapter as well, and yeah, just one second. Wow, what is happening over here? Hmm, there's this glitch sometimes, right? Okay, now it is fine. Great. So, yes, we have already covered the fourth chapter. If I'll go by giving you the brief summary of it, I'll simply share my screen now to the PPT that I was making in between, or like wherever I was posting out or posting the content from this particular chapter, right? I'll give you a brief summary of it, and then we will call it a day, especially for this chapter. And tomorrow or in the next chapter, we are going to cover the dynamics of perception. Okay, now let me stop sharing this and let me share the presentation part. Okay, so in the chapter, the name of the chapter was consistency, a state of mind. What separates the best trader from everyone else is not what they do or when they do it, but rather how they think about that, what they do, and how they're thinking when they do it. Okay, if your goal is to trade like a professional trader to be a consistent winner, then you must start from the premise that the solution are in your mind. Very, very, very important. The solution are in your mind and not in the market. So stop blaming the market and start accepting, okay, market is just in a flow and you have to get the best things out of it, and things that interest you, basically profit. The answers are all in the way you think about it. The irony is that trading can be as much fun and as effortless as your experience of it has been on occasion, but experiencing these quality consistently is a function of your perspective, your beliefs, your attitudes, or your mindset. That means you have to work on the internal environment. You have to make your belief system in accordance to the uh, what I can say, in accordance to the mindset of the pro traders and how they are acting. Winning and consistency are state of minds in the same way that happiness, having fun, and satisfactions are state of mind. Your state of mind is a byproduct of your beliefs and attitudes. Okay, so that means you have to change. Ultimately, at the core, it is you have to change your beliefs and attitudes, and you have to align it with the way the pro traders are doing, the top 10%, and then you will get the best out of the market, or you'll get the profit out of the market. If you depend on outside condition and circumstances to make you happy so that you always are enjoying yourself, then it is extremely unlikely that you will experience happiness on a consistent basis. The best traders stay in the flow because they don't try to get anything from the market. They simply make themselves available so that they can take advantage of whatever the market is offering at any given moment. There is a huge difference between the two perspective, right? So let's say one day you got the market very exciting, like it is giving you the kind of moment, it is in the uptrend, let's say, and the other day it was in a range bound way, or like you know it is sideways basically, and the next day it was in a downtrend, right? But if you are a consistently successful trader, you'll perceive it the same way and you'll get the best out of it. You'll just make yourself present in the moment. You're not doing the same things you did in the uptrend market in the downtrend market. You are adapting to the environment. You are getting the best out of the market by just living the moment, just being present in the market. Okay, so they just stay in the flow and they wait for the right opportunity. I briefly illustrated how our minds are wired to avoid both physical and emotional pain. If you trade from the perspective of trying to get what you want, what you expect from the market, what happens when the markets behave in a way that will fulfill your expectation, that like basically when the market doesn't behave in a way that will not fulfill your that will fulfill your expectation, your mental defense mechanism kicks in, right? So let's say you entered in a position and now from that entry the prices are going low. That means market is moving in the in the opposite direction of your expectations. Now in this case your mental defense mechanism kicks in to compensate for the difference between what you want and what you're not getting, so that you don't experience any emotional pain. Then in the whole process you will leave the very idea of being present in the moment, or you'll not be able to see the market objectively. Okay, you'll not be able to close a position asap. Our minds are designed to automatically block threatening information or find a way to obscure that information in order to shield us from the emotional discomfort we naturally feel when we don't get what we want. You won't realize it in the moment, but you'll pick and choose information that is consistent with what you expect so that you can maintain a pain free state of mind. right? To be consistent, you have to learn to think about trading in such a way that you are no longer susceptible to the conscious or subconscious mental process that cause you obscure, block, or pick and choose information on the basis of what will make you happy, give you what you want, or avoid pain, right? So basically, you have to be in the moment without getting emotionally attached to the system, or without getting emotionally attached to your trade. So you're ready to go, like, you're ready to see the market going in either direction, in positive, in negative, either direction. And you'll, since you are in the moment, you'll get the best result out of it. Even if you are losing, that means you'll simply cut the trade where ideally it should be cut, right? The threat of pain generates fear, and fear is the source of 95% of the error you are likely to make. Very, very, very important. That's the main need to see the market objectively. The threat of pain generates fear, and fear is the source of 95% of the error. See, 95% of the error. Now, just imagine whatever trading you have done so far, out of those, if the 95% of the errors are simply eradicated, then what was your PNL looks like? It's great, isn't it? So that's where the problem is, and I have given you the solution also. Certainly, you can't be consistent or experience the flow if you're consistently making errors, and you'll make errors as long as you are afraid that what you want or what you expect won't happen. Furthermore, everything you attempt to do as a trader will be struggle, and it'll seem as if you are struggling against the market or what the market is against you personally, but the reality is that it's all taking place inside your mind. The market is just reflecting whatever is inside your mind. Learn to accept the risk. That's the crux of this whole chapter. If you'll just accept the risk, or you'll have a predefined risk, and even if the market take the money away that you decided to risk, it will not emotionally bother you. It will not affect your trading. It will not generate fear, and you'll simply eradicate the 95% of the errors that we are talking about. So it is as simple as that. Accepting the risk means accepting the consequences of your trades without emotional discomfort or fear. When you accept the risk the way the pros do, you won't perceive anything that the markets can do as threatening. What is important is that you understand it is completely possible to think the way the professional do, and to trade without fear, even though your direct experience as a trader would argue otherwise. So whatever PNL you hold so far, that is completely fine. But from here onwards, you have to go in the right direction. There are easier, infinitely more satisfying ways of getting what you want from the market, but first you have to be willing to get your mind right. Okay. So yes, by this we are coming to the end of this particular video and this chapter. And today if I'll if I have to just summarize what we learned today, is to accept the risk, and that will eradicate all your fears, all your emotional attachment, and you'll get out as a successful trader. This is like one of the core qualities that pro traders have. Okay. Because you're controlling your emotions beforehand, before entering the trade itself. Okay. So thank you so much if you have seen this video so far, and have a great day ahead. Thank you so much, universe. Thank you so much, Radha Rani ji. Till the next time, peace out.